Hello, everyone. Glad to see you with us and appreciate you for joining us today for an important topic that's critical for the survival of every business. I'm Olivia Rios, Director of Operations and Programs at the LA Latino Chamber, and I'd like to start by thanking our sponsors and supporters of today's program, including SoCal Gas and Southern California Edison. Cybersecurity is a threat to everyone, especially businesses. Today's topic is how to protect your business from a cybersecurity attack. We have three panelists who are subject matter experts in precisely that, cybersecurity. Our first guest is Ruth Ochoa with SoCal Gas, Cybersecurity Awareness and E-Discovery Manager. She is responsible for awareness training for 20,000 employees at Sempra and other affiliates in the US and Mexico, where they do training, phishing simulation campaigns, metrics, and provide employees with training and has created programs for employee rewards. Our next panelist is Julius Argumido. He is the LA Latino Chamber Board Director and President of C1P Solutions in Long Beach. They are a security management company and help build support systems to run your company at prime level and performance. He will share the new trolls and a roadmap to assist businesses. Our third panelist is Kevin Nico, CEO of Zenex, which is a service company going into their 13th year of business. They have a software company team, and it is a large enterprise with various models that integrate with one another. Our panel will share the current state of the union in cybersecurity and address which pitfalls to avoid and the resources available in the marketplace. I'll be asking a few questions such as how to prepare yourself, learn where the systems gaps are, among others. We ask that you write your questions in the chat box and they'll be answered at a Q&A at the end of the session. Following the Q&A, our partners at Delta Airlines will share the newest loyalty program, and I will offer up all the upcoming events. Before we start, our chairman, Daryl Salceda, would like to say a few words. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, hi, good morning, everybody. I know that sometimes cybersecurity isn't on the top of our list, but I mean, when your company's been compromised with this new, what we're facing in 2023, as I was listening to these experts earlier, I wasn't aware of some of the new technology they have. So I want to welcome everybody to our session, and please pay attention. It has some really good information. Have a great time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let's begin. First, thank you to Ruth, Julian, and Kevin for being part of our panel. As you know, the LA Latino Chamber is dedicated to empowering businesses with resources to scale up. So we'll start our program now. I'll be asking a few questions, and if you may answer, and we'll ask the first question. So how do you identify cybersecurity gaps in your company?
So I guess I'll take that. There's certain standards in the industry that we could use as a guide to understand what's going on in an environment and map it to those standards. For example, NIST, which is from the National Institute for Standards. And there's a cybersecurity assessment program that looks at the environment, identifies what's in place and what are the gaps within the environment. And based on that, you could see what gaps needs to be filled in order to meet the compliance requirements from, for example, NIST. That allows a company to make sure that they're following the best practices.
Julius, did you want to add something to that topic or question?
I mean, at the end of the day, there are a lot of gaps right now. You know, phishing remains like the most widely used cyber attack vector, and that cyber criminals are getting better at. They're very crafty. 56% statistically of these phishing emails are getting past email security. So it's becoming a big problem, and And it's mainly happening in the SMB market, which is the largest market for business and across the country, right? For corporate, cities, you name it. So, we like, just to echo what Kevin said, there's a lot of tools you can use, but what tool do you use? And not everybody can afford these tools when you're an SMB. So there's a lot of gaps that need to be filled. Just because that you hear it every day in the news, someone's being compromised, or there's ransomware, and it's malicious, and it stops businesses. So there's a huge gap on people that are secure and people that are not secure, and how do they know if they even are secure? So we work with that every day.
Thank you. Our second question is how to enhance systems that you have. So you already have some systems in place. They may be able to cover, to fulfill your needs, but we know there's more than that. So how do you level up your system?
I mean, everybody should be able to enhance look at their system. A lot of folks that can afford to do a penetration test or vulnerability assessment will understand where their system is lacking. Everybody has holes and gaps in their network that need to be locked down. Now today, the new buzz called zero trust that everyone wants to get to. And if you think you're going to be compromised and you really want a true zero trust environment, well, you got to go through some best practices. You have to work with a great partner. The MSSP is a managed security service provider that is pretty much becoming a great partner for the SMB market, and really for a lot of businesses, because there's such a big gap on security engineers that are able to help businesses. So a lot of outsource is going to understand and to figure out where the enhancements for businesses should happen in their network. So there's a lot of just consultative conversations, and then things that they can do to enhance their business, their system in general.
Yeah, and I would agree, obviously, with Julius, and I think first, I'm not going to assume whether everybody here knows what systems they have or don't have, but I think first to truly understand what security systems they do have in place, and maybe they don't know what they do because you hired somebody to secure your business. And you trust them, and that's okay, but it's not okay, right? This is your money. Would you just trust your financial advisor with however they're investing your money? I would say no. You'd sit down and talk to them and see where your money's going. So in the same sense, see what systems you do have. Talk to the people who you've hired, if you have, that set those up, and ask them exactly what are they protecting. I think that's a good start.
I would like to add a little bit more to this. Most people don't know what they have and what security systems they have in place. And even at times, some of the advisors are not aware of cybersecurity tools that can protect them. They know what they know. So it's always a good idea to find an expert, somebody who focuses on cybersecurity and how to protect your organization, to complement the existing advisor that you have. For example, if you have somebody who knows networking really well, that advisor might not be as good in cybersecurity issues. So there are different resources with different needs. And as an organization, you must get a third opinion, fourth opinion, to make sure that those gaps that there might be in your system are addressed by the people who know how to address them.
And just to add to that, so how, we farm out pretty much, we hire a consultant or a company to manage our networks, but shouldn't someone on the inside also be trained to kind of be a backup of some sort? I know, Ruth, you shared that you have you train employees in your various circle under SEMPRA. How would a small business do that?
So I think that might be two different things. You absolutely should have someone who, first, like I said, understand what system you have in place. And just like Kevin said, people may not know what they have, but once you do know, and you say, okay, if I have a firewall, if I have, my POS system is secure, everything else is secure, what's left, right? Then that's where someone like me comes in, and at my company. We train the employee, because it doesn't matter how secure your systems are, what company you're working with, and how good they protect your system, how good they're monitoring it. All of that, and all of that money spent to have that can go away in 1 second by having an employee click on a malicious email. Click or take, if it's an email, if it's a text message, that you get a text that they're asking you to do something. If you get attacked by phishing, which is phishing by voice, if you get a phone call that says, we're trying to pay this invoice, or we're trying to pay you, we need you to give us your banking information because the payment isn't going through, and you may just be expecting such a payment. So now you give them your information. Now, whatever the hundreds, the thousands, of dollars you may be spending on a security system, all just went away. So it's very important to train the human, to train your employees on security awareness, on how, what to look for in an email. What are the indicators that this isn't real? Were you expecting an email? Is this email really from your boss or a client? We teach things on how to check these things. Did they make it urgent? Normally, if they say urgent, that's the first red flag. I need to look at this and say, what's so urgent? So it's very important, Olivia, thanks for asking that, on training your employees so that your investment in security and your security system does not go to waste.
Thank you. Our next question. Suggestions for a small business to protect yourselves from a cybersecurity attack. So we know there's methods, there's means, but what can a small business really do? Ruth, you just addressed, be very careful with reading your emails and texts and phone calls. I know that I personally get a lot of invoices randomly from different people. So I typically, before I open up the email, I see who it's coming from. And if it's an unknown email address, and I hope many folks do this, they don't recognize it, and I automatically kind of do a spam on it. So, and it's continuous, I would say at least 10 a day.
Oh, it's ongoing. And just to echo what Ruth shared, I mean, there is free security awareness training online if you cannot afford it for an SMB. And I understand there's a lot of startups, but you should get familiar with understanding cybersecurity, because it is in our environment every day. And there's a lot of scripts being written to try to compromise businesses all the time for their data. If obviously, if you have some budget and you're able to work with an MSSP, I always, Kevin at Zenix SOC has got a great program before onboarding into his platform. We really need to understand the network environment, and to make a sound security decision, you have to understand the network and all the data and how and what's important, and then what needs to be protected. Vulnerability assessments and penetration testing is a great way to start for a lot of clients if they can afford it. It's a small investment, but it's a big return on the peace of mind to know that, where we need to clean up, remediate, remove, and build a great clean environment, and then protect. And then from there, you can make a decision on working with an MSSP or a SOC as a service company. I mean, just to keep in mind, RSA is one of the largest security conferences that happens once a year. 6,500 security vendors showed up. I mean, for a business owner, who do you work with? What do you do? I mean, it's very confusing now, very convoluted. So for my business, I mean, we're always training. We work with a lot of security vendors. We really have cleaned up on who's good, who's high end, who's middle of the road. And then, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people opening up their doors in security, and then they go away, because you have to really build that trust. You got to make sure their tools work, and it's got to be bulletproof. And But, there's a lot of new trends happening in the marketplace for, security as a service. And so you're gonna, there's a lot of good things happening to protect businesses now. And so we're really putting the fight to these hackers and turning it around, because the 7 trillion or how many trillions of dollars they're stealing every year, we're using good money now, and we need to use our money to invest it into good programs so they can just go right over us when they try to run their ransomware on us or malware. So that's good
Yeah.
that nobody's opening up links. I would never open up a link that I don't recognize, by the way.
I would add to that it's automation.
Mhm.
There is so much one could do and users could do. At the end of the day, there has to be some intelligence behind everyday tasks. So not as much of a training that we can do, things could happen. Any innocent user can click on an email or on a link and download a malware without knowing. If that happens, the environment is compromised. So the best thing to do, in addition to security awareness, is to use automation to remove any risks in the environment as much as possible, because it's bound to happen. If you're not protected, it will happen. It's just a matter of time. Might as well put the necessary tools in place to prevent it from happening.
So in regards to trends, can you elaborate a little bit? Julius, do you have
Well,
any
no.
recommendations?
You mean, what do you mean by trends? Like,
Well, you shared that, there's trends in cybersecurity as to what, such as like automation, any other takeaways that are business owners that you can
yeah,
share?
so the new trend, I mean, and this is all per Gartner. I mean, everyone is really, I mean, not everyone, most of the SMB now, I mean, there's, and even large businesses, the average life of a security engineer is about 18 months at a company. And then they get recruited or headhunted, and then they move on. So you can't really build a sound security environment that someone's going to manage and keep up to date for you all the time. So automation has become a big play. A lot of folks that are MSSPs, we used to be managed service providers. Now a lot of them are managed security service providers. They are now creating their own security stack. But, just like any security stack, a lot of things get stale. So now it's becoming more of a security operating center as a service, where people can now turn on services as opposed to buying products, and they can turn off certain services that they don't need. A lot of these automational platforms are helping or actually supporting compliancy. So that's the new trend, and you can fully let them manage it, or you can co-manage it with them. Because you asked earlier, how does someone internally learn this program or what's going on? There's a lot of great reports that come out of it. So first, you got to have a great conversation with the customer, let them know you're credible, build that trust, because people buy from people they trust, and very sensitive thing, because really understanding the roadmap of the different options out there is important, because you just got to have the right partners and then the right tools, and finding someone like I've been in the game 31 years, so I've been able to train and go to tons of security vendors or conferences to understand, who's doing a great job, what's hot, all these emerging markets and technology, and then really bring it together and build that ecosystem where, customers can have that zero trust, but they got to be able to understand, the cost and the value for it, and understand that instead of hiring somebody, just purchase a service, as a service, and then have peace of mind and do what you do best, which is whatever is business they opened and whatever they're working. So.
And then Ruth, if you can share some of the trends that you pass on to the folks at Sempra.
Well, if we're looking at a tech trends, it's definitely, again, phishing is high. vishing and smishing. What we are seeing a lot of the vishing coming through, and that is people calling you. And you know, perfect example is, you know, this isn't a small business, but this could happen to anybody. My neighbor across the street, she's an 83-year-old woman, and every time somebody suspicious goes to her door, or if she gets a call, at least last year, she would come over to us and tell me, right? And she would say, oh, SDG&E, they just came by from SDG&E and said that I owed this or that. I told them no, and I would say, you know, great job, Miss Eva, for saying no and coming over here. And then she said, I told them you work at the company and you're right across the street, and I'll go ask you. And I said, well, that's good. So a few weeks ago, she came over and she said, I got a call from SDG&E and said that I owed $300 on my utility bill and I needed to pay it, or they were going to cut off my electricity in 20 minutes. And I said, oh, Miss Eva, that's not real. And she just looked at me with her eyes open, and I said, did you pay him? And she said, yes, I didn't want my electricity to be shut off. And I said, okay. So we have a relationship with her children. She lives alone. So we called them and told them, so they manage her bank accounts, and they, you know, immediately got a hold of the bank. These people had already charged up $4,000 in, you know, things that they purchased off of her bank account. They were able to reverse those, thankfully. But these people are counting on you being fearful that something bad is going to happen. So it's with utilities, it's anything else, it's the car note. You may or may not know, some people are in different, everybody's in a different situation. You may owe on your car. And they may have caught the right person and they said, pay us now. Or we're gonna come get you.
Please leave your message for 6266738.
So anyway, it's these things are happening, and yes, the elderly are being targeted, and everybody's being targeted. Smishing campaigns, things that we think are very obvious. Your boss sends you a text that says, please go get, you know, I need 25 gift cards.
Mhm.
And you would think, who would fall for that? Right? Why would my boss ever say that? So here I am, as I said, as a company, work at a company, over 20,000 people. This happens. So there was an employee that rushed to the store because she was maybe not so much mid-level employee, but she got a text message that said it was her VP and asked her to go buy 20 Amazon gift cards. So she rushed to the store, and she texts him back, just like many people do. And normally the response is, I'm in a very important meeting right now. I can't respond, and I'd get them myself, but I can't. But I want to recognize this team. So then here this employee goes to the store and she's trying to get the 20 gift cards. And thankfully, the person at the cash register asked her, what are these for? And she said, they're for my boss. I just got text, I have to get these for him. Can I get whatever, the gift receipts? And the person said, are you sure? Because they see this a lot. How else would they know? Thankfully, he took the time to ask her, and then she called her boss and he said, no, I did not send that to you. But she wanted so bad to do a good job. She's very intelligent. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with the way people take advantage of your emotions, your feelings, and know, what will this person do? They may have sent 1,000 or thousands of those text messages out. They're going to hit on probably 10% of those. They don't care how much they get, they're getting something. So those are still, you know, the trending type of attacks that we're seeing.
Well, especially now when we have it's been really hot, our electricity bills are off the charts, and you're paying twice as much. If you normally paid $1 to $150, now your electric bill is $300 and you don't have the resources, and you're getting the call to say, hey, my utility company wants to shut off my power. I barely have enough money to, to pay the rent or whatever it might be. Now I'm threatened with, my electricity being shut off. So that could be, I could see where that will instill fear in someone to respond and pay some kind of amount, making them victims of the situation. So, and my next question is, so security awareness training. What kind of training is there out there? I know, Julius, you shared that there's free cybersecurity training. Can you share maybe a resource or two where some of our business owners can reach out to? I don't know of any training per se that I could share, otherwise I would. Can you share those resources, or anyone for that matter? The floor is
Sure,
open.
no. There's quite a bit now out there, believe it or not, but some of the popular ones are going to be Know Before. I know Ruth works with Proofpoint. There's Barracuda, cybersecurity awareness training, Mimecast. There's quite a bit that have it now. They might have a basic program, or they're just dedicated on providing that security awareness training. And as Ruth said, with the smishing and phishing, I mean, really, that's the biggest thing. And I call it upskills with the employees. It's training them to really, communicate and collaborate on what's going on. If they run into something like a phishing email and they know it was, they should share it with the group. I just had one yesterday, the day before, one of my clients called me saying, I don't know how it happened, but the president again just got either hacked or compromised. So we had to change the password, Randy at a company. And how could this happen? So, now a bunch of emails went out, and we even got some saying, hey, we want to pay this invoice online. Please hit the link and pay the invoice. And if you open the link, that's you just invited malware. So I share that with my team. If they see this email from Randy, the president, he's not sending out any invoices. But yeah, I mean, just it's brutal, because like I shared earlier, these phishing campaigns, they become more craftier. They're clever, and believe it or not, 56% of them statistically are still getting through the email security. But just to go back one question, what kind of protection of small businesses we can do is having a good business class firewall for the remote user that working from his home office or at the brick and mortar office, and then having good endpoint security. Turning on a multi-factor authentication has been tremendous now, so. And then of course, having a clean backup. You have to have a strong backup, but so having that is really good security, basic security, I call it security 101, or a must have. And then from there, you really do got to have a good security awareness program, and it's growing. I mean, Ruth has got a really robust program, but security awareness is truly growing. So you're going to hear more of that in the near future.
So there's a question that just came to mind. So, we talk about businesses who have systems in place, it could be up to 5 employees, but what happens when someone's a consultant and works off a laptop and, they put everything on the cloud? How does one protect themselves? Is there, besides using an external drive to store their information?
Well, I mean, there's more security. You can encrypt your data, you encrypt your email, you can work with the virtual private network to log into someone's secure environment. Just everything still falls in place. Now they're starting to sell portable firewalls, or bring your own Wi-Fi in a box. So, wherever you log into, you're secure, because logging into public networks is not safe if you're doing high level work.
Mm-hmm.
But security is layers. It's
Right,
not
right.
one answer to that question.
Correct.
There is no silver bullet. You have to have multiple of tools, and you start, like Julia said, start with security 101 and then build on top of it. eventually you have all the layers necessary to have maximum protection possible. And it might, depending on the budget, it might take a while to get there. But if you're, as a Chinese saying is that the journey starts with a first step, right? So it has to be one step at a time. So if an organization doesn't have anything, start with security 101, then graduate to 200 and then 300 and so on.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I would just like to add to both Kevin and Julius that even just getting, you may still be wondering, well, how do I get started? This is a lot of great information. What do I do? Or I do only have 2 or 3 employees, or I have 100, whatever it is. I think it'd be important to know what your cyber risk is, and I think that everybody could just look at their own business and say, well, what does that mean? First of all, well, this is what it means. What are you protecting? So what do you want to protect? And what happens if you get hacked? If you get, caught up in a breach, what will happen to your clients? What will happen to the information you have? Could that put you out of business? That's what your risk is, right? And then you would, if you're not working with somebody, you would definitely work with a company like Julius and Kevin have, and talk to them and let them assess your business, that they can truly sit down, listen to you, and then scale what type of protection you need, you want, whatever your budget, whatever we don't have unlimited budget. Yes, I work for a large company and we have a very large budget. So that's very different than what I have personally at home or what you have as a business. So companies like theirs, they will help you assess how to protect your most valuable assets, your data, your information, so that you don't, so that one small move is not going to put you out of business. And then, yes, I do believe, because this is my lane, is that training is just as important as those tools. Kevin said it's layers. It definitely is layers. It's like the body, you can't say, of course you can work with one hand, but both hands are equally important. So everything together makes everything more secure. So I did put in some resources in the chat, Olivia, that has free cyber training. But maybe there's something we can do in the future where we can partner with you all to, even if we just provide one just security awareness training on what to look for when it comes to phishing, smishing, and vishing. We'd be happy to partner with you all to, maybe supply, to do that. October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. That might be a good time, whenever if you guys decide to do that. But a lot of people, they're overwhelmed by the term. They're overwhelmed by thinking it's going to be too expensive, not really assessing, well, what is it going to cost you if you don't do it?
And then speaking of, I know before we came on to the program, we talked about cyber insurance.
Yeah, that's a that's a big issue for a lot of companies now. Cyber insurance early on was a lot less expensive because they didn't have statistics. It was a new concept. And about 2 years ago, even 12 months ago, the prices went through the roof. The premiums went through the roof, literally 20 times more in some cases that I know of. And the reason for that is that the insurance companies realized that they didn't have information and they were losing money on the policies that they were writing. And they would write policy for $1,000 and they have to pay out $500,000. So about 12 months ago, the cyber insurance premiums went through the roof. And since then, there has been a lot of attempts to figure out what to do. Now, Having said that, as a company, Xenex is providing a program that with certain tools that we put in place and certify that the customer has, we can provide up to $1 million of warranty on the service, plus they can get cyber insurance at a small fraction of what the market offers, and not even filling out an application, because we've made arrangements with the AAA insurance companies, and with the click of a button, they go to the site and say, I want this much cyber insurance, and it's done. And so we've tried to solve a huge problem for small and medium-sized organization to reduce the cost of cyber insurance from thousands and thousands of dollars to a fraction of that. So it's become available. Now, this program is not available everywhere, but it is very important for companies to know that they can do something about it, because it's become not affordable, right? A lot of small companies cannot even afford it anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
But there are
so-
solutions.
Yeah, so we talked about, or it was discussed, you know, you have auto insurance, medical insurance, house insurance, pet insurance, but most of us live in our business, and most of us live in our businesses, and, you know, that's what makes our, you know, that creates economic opportunity for our families and community. So how can someone not afford to get cyber insurance? I mean, besides it being cost prohibitive in some cases, but you have a program that allows it to be affordable.
Yeah, I think there's, you know, yes, we did talk about it, and I talk about it all the time. You know, as I mentioned before, I have a auto insurance policy. I've had it ever since I was young, but I've never used it. I've never been in an accident. And, you know, why do I do it? Well, you know, in case something happens, I want protection. And same thing with, you know, medical insurance. We get it because in case something happens, you know, it covers the cost of expensive medical costs. So cyber insurance is no different than that. When we talk about the business that actually provides for the livelihood of the families of owners of the small businesses, what if that business can no longer operate? What is the ransomware is so expensive? They ask for $250,000. Well, you don't have it. And there are actually literally instances of this, many examples of this in the industry, that the business had to shut down because it was easier to shut down and start over with something else than to actually pay the ransomware. Well, that also means livelihoods are gone. So cyber insurance is actually quite important when you look at it from that perspective. It's new. People are not used to it yet. They think, oh, why do I need this? It's not going to happen to me. Well, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So you got to have cyber insurance. It's not it's not a nice to have. It's a must have. And if you must have it, then you got to figure out how to get it cost effectively and properly, and actually protect yourself, protect your company. So that's, I think, the key message here. Don't assume, you know, it's needed, just like any other insurance that you have in your lives. Don't assume that it's not going to happen to you. Be prepared. Have cyber insurance.
Ruth, any comments on that?
I can't agree with Kevin more, and that's great, Kevin, that program that you all, you know, do have to make that affordable for people. I think that's amazing, because I would just think that for, you know, the normal person or small business, that it's not attainable. So that's awesome. And as Kevin said, it's and Julius, I'm sure he'll agree, we'll all agree here. It's really not a question of if it will happen, it's when it will happen. And will we be ready? Will we all be ready? And they think that this is the best way to be ready, because it's okay if the when doesn't mean anything's going to take you down. The when means it happened and I was ready for it. We were protected. We were able to block that. The system was able to remove the malicious email. And then it's again back to where, what about the ones that get through? Well, then that's where you have to train the employees. That's where the human factor comes in. And I would also just say that when we look at how, maybe the best thing you could do to work with, to think about this yourself, or you're working with your employees, is just ask people to slow down. We're trying to do everything so fast, and hurry up and reply to this client, hurry up so we could get this business, hurry up, my boss needs this, hurry, 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 I have a million things to do, is really just slow down. And if we could treat every piece of email, like you said, Olivia, you look and you say, do I recognize this email? That's a great indicator. That's really good that you're doing that. But some people may get an email and they may look at it, is this possible new business, right? I need to look at it. Let me click to see what they need, what their business is about. I try to emphasize that you should treat each email as mail you get in your mailbox. You don't just take that stack of mail and shred it, right? You look, it might, or unless it's obviously junk mail, right? But you also shred it because it has your personal information on it. But you look at it, but when you open up an email that says, hey, here's a $50,000 check, you don't just say, wow, this is a real check. You're not going to call the number. You know that it's junk. Treat each email that way and look at it and say, is this real? Could this be real? We recently sent out a phishing campaign that offered people free things. People like free things. And we catered it to each region that we operate in. We said, well, people were not happy with us because they call it a trick. But in San Diego, we said, hey, we want to recognize our employees for doing such a great job. Click here if you're in San Diego for Padre tickets. If you're in LA, click here for Dodger tickets. And in Mexico City, we knew that Alicia Keys was going to give a concert. So we said, click here for Alicia Keys tickets for, you and someone else. Needless to say, that was one of our highest clicked fishes. So as the employees were upset that we tricked them, we again pointed to, where did this come from? It didn't even come from the company. So be careful, slow. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So I would just say, slow down. We need to slow down, have our employees slow down and really assess what they're doing. As a company, if one of us messes up, yes, we can, our reputation can suffer. Yes, we can lose client data. Our company will probably survive. But in a small business, who's there to help you survive if you don't take these precautions? I don't know if you have that or not. I'm going to guess no, you're doing this yourself.
Okay. So we are at 9:45. So let me go to the chat box to see if there's any questions there. Let's see. So thank you, Ruth, for sharing 5 resources. So there's the CISA. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Ruth?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I was on mute, but let me just go over to that information.
And you provided 5 different sources. So those are the resources that are free for businesses, or?
Yeah, so it's cybersecurity. I'm sorry, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. There's a lot of free resources there. The National Cybersecurity Alliance, Identity Theft Resource Center, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the FBI cybercrime, and then I added NIST. And I was, going through these, I'll just, I really thank you for the opportunity for being able to be here today to share, because I learned so much about small businesses. So Thank you for that. But to find that there's a lot of resources here, as Julia said, there's a lot of free ones out there. But if your budget only allows that, this is the very least you should do. But if not, I strongly suggest, talking to, Julius and Kevin or some, if you have other resources there to see what it is you actually need to protect your company.
Thank you. And then we have Sony Romos, who shared cybersecurity, cyber insurance. The San Bernardino Sheriff Department was in the news because of this. So there's an article on hackers targeting California Sheriff's Department. There's also, Ruth, you also shared the NIST free cybersecurity training and resources. The NIST.
Yeah, that's NIST. And again, it's another great place to get cyber resources, and they have videos, that you can just show your employees, it might be 1 to 3 minutes. So really good resources.
Okay. And then Sony Ramos mentioned that is cybersecurity. He offers that for his businesses as well as workers' comp, etc. Thank you, Sony. Anna Salceda jumped in and asked, I have a proposed question of the month of October. We can work together to work on a small business campaign for cybersecurity insurance. I completely agree. We'll talk offline to discuss this and maybe select a date, and then probably this week so we could solidify it and get it on our calendar. So that is cool. So there was 3 companies that Julius had referred to, or programs: TruthPoint, Barracuda, and Mindcast. Did I get that right, Julius?
Well, Know-B4 is very popular for security awareness training. Know-B4, KNOBE, the number 4.
Okay, all right. We can certainly add that to our chat.
I do want to say something, Olivia, just because I know we have a lot of small business owners here. I mean, Gardner is already putting a roadmap by 2025. A lot of companies will need to be have some sort of security compliance. There's already companies out there providing security scorecards so you understand how well your business is doing as far as security compliance goes, and giving you a true security scorecard and helping you identify areas that you can improve. I know moving forward in the future, a lot of businesses are going to start looking at each other, making sure that you're compliant, or that you're secure, that you're a good business to work with. I mean, you can wait to do it then, or you can do it now and maybe avoid missing an opportunity because you didn't have all these boxes checked off. And as Sunny proposed, all the insurance he provides, I mean, you're going to see more insurance companies provide cyber because, what is insurance? It's paying a small fee now for something you may not need, but it takes care of a financial burden down the road if you were ever to have to use it. For example, you get into an auto accident and you destroy your car and the other person's car, but your deductible is only $500. That's all you're out. Same thing for cyber or even medical. You have your co-payments, and that's what you have to. That's your personal, what you agree to pay in order to get that service. Same thing with cyber. If you get hacked or you get compromised and you get completely locked out, a business owner, small business owner or medium business owner doesn't have to just shut down their business or be down a number of days cleaning up the environment, trying to get back everything that he lost. Now you're protecting not only your business, which is your livelihood, but the employees that work for you. So, that's why cyber insurance is becoming more, you're going to hear that more down the road. But really for Ruth, who's got a great security awareness training, I mean, that's almost everything, because the majority of all these problems come through the end users and people that just hit the wrong links, and it's coming in internally. But once again, I'm a value-added reseller. I'm a partner. There's tens of thousands of us across the country that are helping out businesses, and we can scale to manage as many companies on our platform as possible. You know, Kevin, who's been a great vendor, he's a great security vendor. He's in the high end portion of what everybody wants now, security operating center as a service. And if you can get that, that's great. But you know, he's got a lot of features on his platform. So that way people aren't just buying products anymore that go stale, but we got features and services that we can turn on to cater to each and individual business. And obviously Ruth has got an amazing large business that has a lot of, you know, a true SOC and a NOC and everything. And then the team to do the security awareness. And so, you know, it's great to see all three different folks using it, selling it, and then providing it on the call today. So thank you.
Yeah, no, and any last comments before we ask our partners at Delta to share some information?
I did want to add real quick, Olivia, as Julius was saying, that companies that you are partnering with as a small business definitely are starting to look at how secure you are. We, in our policy, where we have a phishing policy where we have a number of, say, an employee can reach a certain amount of clicks before the employee can be let go. For contractors, it's 2 clicks. So after 1 click, the vendor, the has to attest that they are providing their employee with security awareness training. So this is where all the other businesses come in. We would ask you, do you attest that you've been providing your employee security awareness training? And you would say yes. And then if they click again, we would remove their network access. So now where does that leave you, where you were counting on this money coming in from these larger companies? Now this has really affected you. So I just wanted to give a even bigger picture on how even with large companies like ours would affect your business if your employees aren't properly trained.
Well, and step above that, Ruth is absolutely correct. Some organizations go a step beyond that, and that if they're hacked and you were responsible for that, meaning through a connection, the hackers got into their companies, they can sue you for not doing your due diligence and not putting the right protection in place. So one aspect of it that you will use revenue, just like Ruth mentioned, the other aspect of it is that your business is at risk. You could get sued by the company that got hacked because you're connected to them. So keep that in mind if you are working with larger organization, if you are a supplier for those organizations, and if you're electronically connected with those organizations, then you might be at risk. Look at your contract to make sure. I'm sure nowadays it's almost every large company has a clause in there that as a supplier, you're responsible for cyber insurance, and you're responsible if you get hacked, we're coming after you.
Very interesting. You know, and going back to the conversation we had before we came on live, you know, there's many of our small businesses or businesses in general that do apply for procurement opportunities through various portals. And, you know, if we are, you know, the portals are secure on the vendor's end, but, you know, I guess it highlights what you were saying, Kevin, about that if we don't have security measures in place, we apply for some of these contracts on a given portal, we can be sued. So it goes back to getting the cybersecurity insurance, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So Anna was just asking, is there a scorecard? Anna, are you on you want to come on live?
Sure. Yes, I was just thinking all of this is such great information. Every time I jump on this call, I just love what it tells me as a small business owner, but what we can provide for a lot of our members. So I'm thinking, Olivia, offline, we really do need to do something really great in the month of October. And one thing I would like to see us do is even help create that scorecard. Who is out there providing? Because like myself, I would like to see something, maybe just very basic points, what we need to do to even get up and running and get, in the know of this and protect ourselves as small businesses, and as a chamber, help us understand there's got to be some kind of scorecard. What companies are out there doing it right? And I have to agree with you. You know, when I was writing it, I was going to say cost effective, but you're right. We can't afford not to have this. You know, as a small business, we don't even have it. So, Julius, this is about the third time I've jumped on, right? So we really, really need to know. I think this is serious because some things have happened with contracts, as you mentioned, Ruth. You know, it allowed me to be mindful of now they're taking a look at us being secure as partnering with bigger companies when we go into, you know,
Yeah.
joining a larger contract. So that is one part I think we can't afford not to look at. So thank you so much for all your expertise. Let's do something in October. You know, we've got time to be able to put something together.
Yeah, we will. And Kevin, you had
Yeah. There's a 6-step program that
Okay.
we have to accomplish cybersecurity that actually allows you to get that cyber insurance at affordable prices.
Okay.
These are not difficult to do, but it's good hygiene, security hygiene. And then once you certify that you have it in place, then that allows you to get the cyber insurance. So there is actually a very prescribed format and
Good.
tools and program that we can put in place systematically that addresses all the needs, not only to get better security, cybersecurity posture in place, but also to be able to get cyber insurance at the same time at affordable prices.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank all our panelists for today. And of course, our sponsors, SoCal Gas and Southern California Edison, for the opportunity to share this important information for you. We will create something in the month of October. We do want to know more about those 6 steps. And I really think that just like health insurance, is good for our health, cybersecurity is good for our businesses. And when we work so hard just to grow and elevate, the last thing we need is to be sued for lack of. If you have any questions, please feel free to call us. Our office number is 213-422-9019. Or you could reach me at Olivia, OLIVIA, @LALCC.org. On behalf of our staff, our board, and our CAB, we wish to thank you for your participation, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Take care.